All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little Golden State Warrior video. Well, free agency has begun. It's begun quietly for Golden State, but let's talk a little bit of what they have gotten done, and that is re-signing Draymond Green. 4 years, $100 million contract for Green. Interesting deal in that the fourth year is an option year, a player option. What it does is it keeps the core intact for Golden State, and it keeps their window. If you believe their window is potentially open, there's just no doubt that it would have closed if Green had moved on. So to me, it keeps their window open from that standpoint. I don't actually know if they're going to seriously contend for a title or not. And there's more moves to be made. But as far as I know for sure, if Draymond Green had moved on, that the championship window would be closed. So it now further extends the possibility of that championship window being open. And I think that's huge. It also saves Joe Lacob about $43 million from what I'm reading in future commitments as far as luxury tax, repeater tax, so on and so forth. So that's a good thing. Saves the team money, and they've got now their rebounder, their distributor, their heart and soul, the guy who plays best off Steph Curry, and it's a win-win-win situation for sure. Now, are the Warriors a title contender as is just by bringing Draymond back and what they've done in the draft? Well, let's talk about that. They added Chris Paul on draft day and a deal for Jordan Poole. So is adding Chris Paul and Brandon Pajemski and Trace Jackson Davis in the draft enough and then the re-signing of Draymond, is it enough to really be in the running with Denver and the best teams in the NBA? I would say it's probably just a little bit beneath that. Now, there's also a lot of talk they're going to add Dario Saric. Saric is, now going to be a year further removed from the ACL injury. I didn't like the way he moved last year post ACL compared to how he moved and how fluid he was before that injury. Now, does he get some of that fluidity back? I'm eager to see. He's very skilled, very smart. He'll play well off the ball. He'll definitely be a good contributor in Kerr's offense. He gives you a little bit of a big man who can shoot the basketball, but he also has the ability to play make. He can put it on the deck, get into the lane, find an open player. He's got a kind of an all-around game. He can finish. He can find guys. He can be a distributor. You can run stuff through him. So there's a lot of basketball IQ there and a lot of skill. The question is, to me, just about how much does he have left as far as the post ACL? Does he get any of that fluidity back? But as far as re-signing Green, great move because the alternative was so bad. The alternative, I'm sure Steph would have been very upset. The fan base would be upset. Steve Kerr's already on the record as stating that the team is not a championship caliber team without Draymond Green. So, in a way, if I'm Joe Lacob, I might be a little frustrated with Kerr in that Kerr could have said, "Hey, look, we'll see how it goes," and kind of stayed out of it. Instead, he gave Draymond more leverage by publicly coming out and saying that the team wasn't a championship contender without Green. So that gave Draymond tons and tons of leverage against the team. And I wonder how Joe Lacob at his core really feels about Kerr doing that. He sided with Draymond over Joe in some respects, I guess you could argue, because he could have saved Joe some money by just staying out of it. Instead, he backed his player publicly and said, "Yeah, if we don't have Draymond Green, we're no longer a title contender." And you know what? You know what I love about it? He's right. Kerr's right. And I love how he was very honest in that situation. How many people would be honest and cost their employer and the owner of their team and their direct boss money? So that's how important Steve Kerr values relationships with his players and his key players. I thought that was very, very interesting that he backed Draymond that way. It does nothing but further their bond, and it shows that even though most middle managers side with the power structure, Kerr side with what he thinks is right and with his players. And he stood up for Draymond there. Draymond got his $100 million. Is Draymond worth $100 million? Probably not at the end of that contract, but who cares? He plays so well off of Steph. Steph plays so well off of him. He's your rim protector. He's your leading distributor. I mean, this guy, he's a basketball genius on the defensive end. He's your engine. He's your will. I mean, come on. Draymond Green's got a lot left, and he played at a pretty high level this year. And I think he'll continue to play at a high level. Now, he's not a shooter. So if you say, okay, going forward, what do they need? Okay, so in the front court, you got Looney and you got Trace Jackson Davis and you got Draymond. And for the moment, at least, you have Kuminga. You may be adding Saric. So that gives you a big man who can shoot the basketball. Then at the 3, you've got Andrew Wiggins, and you still have Moses Moody coming back. And then at the 2, you got Clay and Pajemski. And Gary Payton's in the mix somewhere. You can play him at multiple positions. And then, of course, there's Steph and Chris Paul. So what do they need? They need one more wing, and they need maybe one more big. And it will be interesting to see. Maybe Saric is the big, and they just need the wing. But I would say they definitely need one more player, and I don't know exactly which player that's going to be. There were a lot of speculation on maybe they would get guys like Seth Curry. No, Seth Curry went for bigger dollars. And so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of player is out there. Do they go with the athlete who can D you up and run the floor? Do they go with a shooter? Do they go with a playmaker? Is it more of a 1? Is it more of I don't think it's going to be a 1. Is it going to be a 2, a 3? Is it going to be more of a big man? People suggesting Dwight Howard. I don't know if I like Dwight Howard, but I could definitely see the need for one more big man to help out in the front court. So interesting that Green gets signed, and good that Green gets signed, because now you've got that part of your team locked up. And now the question is, what's next? Are they going to keep Clay and Draymond and Steph together? And then if so, how does this team get better? And I don't know as is. I mean, I like Trace Jackson Davis, and I think Pajemski's a nice prospect. Chris Paul, I think, is going to take better care of the basketball than Jordan Poole. But are the Warriors better? Are they appreciably better than they were at the end of the year without Poole? And you've lost Dante DiVincenzo. Even if you add a Dario Saric, I still think you're with a lot of the guys on your roster getting older and out of their prime. Green, Thompson, and Curry being, specifically those 3 guys. That's your core, and they're getting further away from their prime. It'll be interesting to see what they can do to round out this roster. I like the idea of Saric being in his physical prime. He's not old. He's not a baby. He knows how to play the game, but he's not old. So he's in the prime years of his career. And if they could find maybe one more player like that could be a contributor or make a significant trade, the question is Kuminga here, or are they going to move him? Is Moody here, or are they going to move him? We know Clay's got one more year, but would they consider moving Clay, or are they closed to that? What about Wiggins? Are they, is Wiggins here? So it should be interesting how they round out this roster. I don't know if a big move is coming or not, but I definitely think re-signing Green is great news, because now you got a shot. You had a nice draft. You re-sign Green, and, maybe you add a couple pieces now around that. And if they're good complementary pieces, maybe you push Denver and in the West and you get one more ring out of it. To me, if you said, what do I think it's going to have, how it's going to shake out? I don't know that a couple more minimum players make you a title contender. Not with your core getting older. They may have to be a little bit more creative. They may have to make a more significant transaction. I'm not saying a blockbuster trade, but they may have to consider moving players they don't want to move. I don't want to move Kuminga. I know lots of people don't want to move Klay Thompson. People love the way that Moses Moody finished the year. None of those guys I'd be in a rush to trade, but at the same time, how do you get better? How do you make that one significant move that gets you back higher up in the pecking order for a title next year? It's going to be an interesting summer for sure, but definitely great move for Draymond. 4 years, $100 million. Getting him in the fold was essential. All right, hope you enjoyed our video on Draymond Green and the Warriors. Check out Pig and a Pickle. 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to all you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.